This is how it feels to be Melia, immersed within the storms of fate. The violent tremors and thundering howl of a collapsing machine god, descending into an inevitable decay, driven into fatal solidarity by the will of the Yaldabaoth. A brother's words spoken through the throes of evolution, valiant in the protection of his sister from the burden of their curse. An artificially imitative key to the future, crafted in defiance of divine wrath. These were what Melia Antiqua could focus on without beginning to shake. Scalding torment boils beneath the surface, obscured by an imperial facade. Silent dread, looming over the heart and soul as eyes reflect a glowing jade. And the shaking began. In her heart, she is lost. In her heart, she wishes for nothing more than to be allowed to unshackle the full weight of the maelstrom that surges within. Anxiety, worry, and sadness swirl throughout her spirit, eroding the energy with which she maintains her mask. The god of their realm has shattered the very essence of their journey, torn the meaning from the struggle that defines their lives, battered their bodies into submission to his will. He has taken from them the matriarch of their resistance, the light around which bitterly feuding civilizations had so recently coalesced. Hope's flame glimmered in the night, imprisoned within darkness. The shaking worsens when she looks out over the landscape of the colony, for that refuge of two realms drew her into her earliest memories, where there existed only agonizing reminders of the home she has lost, the capital of her people, the heartland of their souls, the nexus point of Hyentian culture, long after their empire had drawn its wings back from dominion over Bionis itself. To its residents, for all their lives, for the lives of millennia of Hyentia before them, civilization has only ever had one true name. Alchemoth was more than merely the queen of cities, or the city of the world's desire. It was part of their very identity, the legacy of their forefathers, the sun around which their solar system revolved. A strike against it was an assault on who they were. Thousands of years, wiped from existence in a single day. All of their hopes, all of their dreams, everything they had been, scattered and broken, lost to the winds of time. The shaking worsens still when she lifts her gaze towards the behemoth upon whose frame they all resided, for the shadow it casts reminds Melia of the enemies that yet live. The deception, the betrayal, the metamorphosis of countless lives into warped beings of primal torment, cursed to wander a blood-soaked sea of suffering for all eternity, and the wretched task left to those that yet lived, traumatized in the chaos of their search for asylum. The death of imperial guardsmen she had admired, of Hyentian citizens under her protection, the death of her oath to the people, the death of Saurian and Callian Antiqua, fallen, lost, along with Alchemoth, along with the Hyentia, along with her entire world. Wave after wave of pain and agony surges through her. Yet, the simple truth of her position calls to her. These are the moments that define the princess of the Hyentia. She has given her life to others. She has taken lives in their service, and lost lives she has sworn to. She has seen those that she cares for maimed, and killed, and worse. Many so disfigured by transformative divine will that all that was left to them was to commit atrocities greater still. The totality of her existence has become glass, shot through with a trauma so deep that a single blow might shatter her to pieces. But because she is Melia Antiqua, she weathers the storm without being cast into the night. Because she is Melia Antiqua, within moments, the woman of fragile glass becomes steel once more. Her fragments of the broken mirror swept back into place, weighing her own concerns against those of the individuals that yet lived on, those to whom her life is dedicated to serving. And because she is Melia Antiqua, the choice is no choice at all. All that she'd done, and all that had been done to her, all that her people had accomplished, and all that they'd been cursed to suffer, all that their two realms themselves had gone through, all the years of pointless misery and meaningless slaughter, the annihilation of their societies, and isolation of their resistance, she would bear the cruelty of the universe herself, her aversion to support against a Telethia whose elimination had been her duty. the silencing of her own love in favor of the happiness brought by rediscovered passion, her resolute refusal to submit to exhaustion, lest she shackle others to the weight of her physical limitations. Even the grief she felt for the Telethia that were once High-Entian brethren, and the sorrow felt upon being compelled to end the lives of her people. She internalized it all, made the burdens of others her own, for there existed within her a sense of responsibility greater than anything she had ever known. Her movements are sharp and deliberate, her presence marked by the strength she gathers upon herself. There was much to be done. The fallen were to be avenged and put to rest, divinity subjected to the retribution of the unified civilizations of Bionis and Mechonis. If she was the last of the imperial line, her duty remained unchanged. As long as she drew breath, she would continue to fight for all life. The High-Entia? Nay, not only the High-Entia.
For the sake of all the people of this world, that they may decide the future as equals. That is the vision I choose to guide me. That is the future I wish for.
And it is the true measure of Melia Antiqua that, even as uncertain as she is to the meaning of her family's words, her soul understands and embodies the power they speak of.
You are the hope of the High-Entia. You will not transform into a Telethia. Even after the Bionis has reawakened, you can still succeed the Imperial line. You have the power to end our suffering.
There is a refined beauty to Melia Antiqua's technique in the arena of war and leadership, a quality quite unlike the feeling one might gather of the other great figures comprising the struggle to seize the future. She lacks entirely the pure blaze, the bold analytical zeal of a Shulk. There is nowhere in her the stylish ferocity of a Dunban, nor the effortless self-assurance and authority of a Callian, and she is nothing resembling the hubristic storm of might that Zanza became. She is hope itself. That is her power. Before Melia had left Alchemoth for Machna Forest, she had been told of the task she was to fulfill. She had been told it was a trial, a demand of the High-Entian half-breed's worthiness to succeed the throne. She had known no experience on the field of battle. She was a girl known to the people only as a masked icon of imperial grace, faceless to all, isolated and friendless within her prison of luxury and splendor, socially impeded by regal formality. She'd thought only one person had ever loved her, and it had been her mother, a helmswoman, bound to the chains of mortality through her daughter's early years. All she'd ever been was an outcast, a lonely girl, given peace of mind only by flowers, reminding her of a time of love. Yet still, she'd accepted her role in slaying the Telethia. She was dedicated to who she was to become, no matter the hopelessness of the task. If Melia Antiqua believed her actions to be for the common good of the people, she would submit to nothing and face whatever stood in her path. And it had cost her imperial companions their lives. She'd doubted then, as she doubted latterly, the value of her life's efforts. In an ethereal space between realms, she'd fallen under the sway of self-loathing, believing herself as the chosen leader of her people, responsible for their unspeakable fate. She had, after all, been validated by her ancestors, and designated as the last of their line. Was she a curse? A failure? Fated to oversee the final destruction of the High-Entia? Had she brought calamity upon all that she cared for, and all that she loved? She had been soothed, then, by her family's triumph over the blood of destiny, but the tendrils of doubt had yet remained curled around her heart, questions strangling her soul through the rediscovery of Alchemoth. What had it all been about? What was the purpose of her life? What did it mean to be the hope of the High-Entia?
I have been mistaken in my thinking. The war is over and peace has been restored. We are rebuilding, slowly but steadily. I'd thought that with peace came happiness. Indeed, that even here, people would embrace it with open arms. but the reality is different.
Now, dancing to a rhythm set by a force beyond their understanding, Melia is directed by an answer that has taken a lifetime to unveil. The world they had known was dead, slain, by the key forged through their wills. Its concerns, along with the divisions cast by its context, were no longer of their realm. And yet, the scars left in its wake echo on throughout the night, into the dawn of a new morning. Generations marked by tragedy, rifts and wounds sealed in blood. However, she'd reconciled division, healed bitterness and enmity. She'd bridged the gap between cultures, led a movement for universal harmony. She'd brought hope at a time when despair overwhelmed the heart. Hope for a new society, a new civilization, a new world. An age of unification, born from the ashes of what had been lost. A hearth, a dream around which they could gather. A symbol of the path they all walked together. That was Melia Antiqua. And it is in this moment that she remembers words spoken to her so long ago, when her world consisted of little more than the untold suffering of a girl lost in sorrow, surrounded by those who would one day become her closest friends.
To become the hope of the High Entia is a fate that you choose for yourself. As long as you remember this, it is certain that you will be worthy of that name. But remember this also. It is not because you are the hope of the High Entia that I love you. It is because I love you. And I wish for you to become that hope.
So now, standing ever more in defiance of storms past and future, Melia simply is who she chooses to be.
They're waiting for you, Melia.
Does this world need a coronation? I just don't see the point.
Don't say that. It is the will of the people. It will mark the birth of a new era.
Day spreads across the city of Alchemoth. On the grounds before the palace, individuals of all circumstances and origins spill across the once ravaged streets of the reclaimed jewel, brought together under a single banner by an open flame of hope, its light enveloping them in a warm embrace. The Queen of Cities stands proud above her liberators, its luster set free through the passion of a world prepared to move forward, awaiting with brimming enthusiasm the next step on their journey. It is only through their unity that she shines once more with that luminosity, an optimism born of countless hearts beating as one, beating with the same desire, the coronation of their empress, their hope. It is, then, within the great palace complex that hope could be found, a river of quiet strength and characteristic modesty, flowing in perfect harmony towards the ocean of will into which she endlessly pours. The imperial staff meets her hand, and the universe reflected, one final time, the boundless depths of her soul. Gazing into the cosmic infinity of the future, Melia Antiqua finally understands the essence of her ancestors' words. She had never been condemned to failure, never been a curse to her people. Hers was the final reign ever to grace the Alchemoth of their forefathers. That time, their time, had passed. What she was, what she had chosen to be, was the culmination of their story and the beginning of something new. She walks towards the light of their future, a future whose possibilities were immeasurable, and steps beyond the sky. But the vast horizon of their world's potential carries with it the threat of the unknown. For one day, that horizon would be challenged. One day, the world's hope would face disaster and make a choice. Either protect the future they will all build together, or surrender themselves to inescapable ruin.